Hey, everybody's Ken and Danielle.
Hello.
Very, very excited. I have Don Mates here. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
So, Don, let's talk about value adds because, that's kind of the big topic now. There's different periods of time where there are value adds and not value adds. What do you do a go or no go on some of the value adds? When do you decide?
Well, I think the first thing is because it's such a hot word right now, people use it like in such a broad stroke. And I just feel like it really needs to be defined for me as a general contractor. I believe that value add is adding physical value, adding something substantial to the property, not just paint, not just, new staging furniture, but really some legitimate pieces of square footage that can actually be appraised at a higher value. And that's, to me, what value add is. And so I get asked all the time, what do things cost? Where do we sit on that? And especially San Diego is way different than Phoenix or maybe in the Midwest.
Well, you're like the person everybody asks because you're like a go or no go. Like if we have a deal and we don't know what it's going to cost, let's say add an ADU, we have to go there and find out because that's part of the cost, right? And you don't even know what the return is. So it seems like the ADU market is really taking off right now. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, the ADU market, as you know, in California is super hot.
Yep.
And it is in different parts of the country, but especially in San Diego because you already own the land. You're just adding more units. And there's something really magical about that. And for me, an ADU is probably around 300 plus a square in San Diego right now.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. If you have that land already and you're just talking building.
Yeah.
So for probably yourselves and myself, that 300 plus a square foot equates to about $800 or $900 a square foot after appraisal. And that's just magical. And I'm sure you see that here as well.
Not like those kinds of numbers, but I do like that because if you build 1,000 feet and it's 300, it's 300 grand.
Mm-hmm.
And then in San Diego, you can rent that for how much?
Depends what the configuration is, but like a 2-1 ADU is almost 4,000.
Okay, that's a hell of.
And it is near the beach, so you have to kind of qualify.
No, I love that.
No, I have a question about ADUs. Because they actually are beginning to be a thing everywhere, right? Because it's affordable housing and not having enough rentals. How does one go about finding if they're able to put an ADU on their property?
Most municipalities, and you have to check, most municipalities are a green thumb for one and one. In other words, a single family home, you can add an ADU at least where I am. In SoCal, one is absolutely, there's no question whatsoever. You have to have the square foot, you have to have the space on the property, and you have to have, of course, the setbacks, but they always allow at least one. And there's also a thing called a junior ADU. San Diego, you can do, so that would mean two. And they're actually coming around more and more I think there's a statewide law now that they can do many, many, many more units. I don't know if it's in the decision-making process, but so for instance, somebody can come in with a single family home that they bought and add like a whole bunch more units, but it's up to that municipality to decide that it kind of overrides.
It's part of the zoning, right?
Part of the zoning.
So where would they go, though? Like, say you were in Ohio or something, right? Like, who would you go to discuss if you could put an ADU on your property?
You just go right to the city. They're super friendly. I think there's this attitude with investors, especially newbies, that they're very afraid of going to them. My experience over 30 years has been it's fantastic. You go in there and they're very kind. They want more buildings and places to live in general. There's always bad eggs here and there, but they really are kind. And if you can, find a champion in your municipality, it's so key and it's so special because you could just come in and just do all kinds of building.
That's a good point. Like a lot of people think the city's like, tough. They don't forget they make money.
Yes, they do.
There's permit fees, development fees, there's impact fees, there's sales tax, there's all kinds of even rental fees. There's all kinds of things that happen when the building, people are building, right?
They make a lot of money.
Yeah,
we call it the building tax.
Yeah, yeah. So it's a good question you asked, because I think you're right. If you have something in escrow, or even you own something and you're curious, just go down to the city or county. Go down there with your stuff and say, "This is what I've got. What can I do on here?" Right? And they'll tell you.
Yes, exactly. And in fact, you'll take your parcel number, you go down, they'll look it up, Google Earth, and they have all of the data and all the statistics. In fact, I'm working on and getting entitlements for an 8-unit right now, and that's exactly what I'm going to have to do. In some of these more dense areas, even where I am, if there's public transportation within, I'm not sure exactly, but like a couple blocks, they waive parking.
Wow.
And so I know. And so some of those, if there's public transportation close by, they're very cooperative.
By the way, that's huge, guys. That means you can build on more of the land. What's your normal deal flow look like?
Well, I don't do a lot per year, and I'm okay with that. I've done huge bunches of houses and investments and spec homes, and I'm not about the fast pace anymore, the high volume pace. I want to do quality things. So with my team, we'll go and I'll talk to brokers. I have a relationship with brokers. But, it's kind of funny. There are a lot of opportunities on the MLS. I mean, people think it's all retail, but it really isn't. If you look at it at a certain angle, or if you time it right. This last property I got right on the lagoon and in the ocean in Southern California, a developer was going to buy it at $3 million, and it fell out of escrow because he couldn't completely scrape the lot. Well, I came in as a value add or a forced appreciation builder, and I didn't realize it was multifamily. Wasn't that stupid? But when the agent said, "Oh yeah, you can put 8 more units on the property," I was like, okay, and it was timing. It fell out, and the property owners were trust kids. They had to sell it in a certain period of time, and I just walked in at the right time.
So this is a really, really, really good point. That lot that got listed to one person was a scrape and a new build, and that could have gone down in history that way.
Mm-hmm.
But had you perhaps gotten there before, it's now turning into an 8-unit. And this is the really, really, really interesting and a good point, because I think a lot of people don't understand that it can be that different. It's literally, and I go, when you drive past a 10-acre property, it could be an office building, it could be a multifamily building, it could be a retail, it could be a grocery store, it could be a self-storage, it could be, 50 houses, it could be lots of stuff. And I don't think people understand that it can be literally that diverse, right?
Yeah. I think I've gotten used to this idea, and, it took me a long time of a lot of transactions to realize, wait, Dawn, it's not about the transaction. It's about the long-term real estate income. And you have to ask yourself, one of my custom build customers told me, Dawn, you have to ask yourself every time you see a property, what is the highest and best use for that property? And I didn't even think about it. I was such a knucklehead for years. I was just looking forward to that transaction. And, typical transaction on a single family piece of property.
So, Dawn, what's the best way people can reach you?
On Instagram, I'm Woman Builder Dawn, and Facebook is Dawn Mates. And they can email me, dawn@womanbuilder.com. It's really easy. It's WOMAN builder.com. And then my website is www.womanbuilder.com.
Well, Dawn, this has been fun. Thank
you
you
so
very
much.
much. I appreciate
Such a blast.
your time.
You guys
Thanks
are
for
both
coming in.
wonderful.